green. Are you an ultimate Eagles football fan? Well, you're in the right place. This is Birds 365, hosted by the new Mac and Mac, Jody McDonald and John McMullen.
Here we go!
Who collectively have covered and talked about more than 50 plus years of Eagles football. Kick off your day with Birds 365. You'll get debate.
We love to argue.
You'll get the real story from inside the locker room. And you'll hear from some of the great football minds from around the region. You're about to become an Eagles insider. Get in the game. Join Jody Mack and Johnny Mack and join the football community that flocks to Birds 365. Birds 365 starts right now.
Welcome to the NFL. Let's go! Let's go! Go! And good morning, Birds 365 fans. Appreciate you streaming in here with Mac and Mac, John McMullen, and Jody McDonald. Well, we got a lot to sink our teeth into today. Johnny Mac's been a busy boy over the last 48 hours. A lot of comings and goings with the Eagles and the entire National Football League, because that's what happens at this time of year. That's the way they put out their rules. That's how they have to create their rosters. And I think it's a really good thing, not just for us, but for football fans in general. It gives you something to pay strict attention to. Just a quick behind-the-scenes thing. Yours truly works Monday and Tuesday nights on WIP. So I'm up till after 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm back up at 6:15 to get ready to do this show. So I get a nap on the days that I'm up till 2 o'clock in the morning the previous. So yours truly was sound asleep yesterday when I heard my phone buzz. So I took a half look out of one eye and saw a text from Johnny Mack. Rager traded to the Vikings. Okay. I know we'll be talking about that tomorrow. Thank you very much for keeping me updated, Mr. McMullen. It finally came down. We've been talking about it after his first year. People started speculating with the Eagles deal Jalen Rager. After his second year, the price came down significantly. But I give Howie Roseman credit. I give all you media guys who were spouting the fact that they were close to getting a Jalen Rager deal done, and they did. Not a hefty return for Rager, actually a pretty poor one. And I got to tell you this, John. I don't know if people, and everybody reported, including yourself, are just following the Eagles' lead, because I'm sure they wrote the release this way. Jalen Rager traded for a 5th-round pick that can de-escalate to a 6th-round pick. I don't know about you, but every single trade I've ever seen, it was a conditional pick.
Yeah, that was my
started
first.
with the lesser pick, and it could escalate to a better pick.
Yeah.
But yesterday, when the Eagles announced it, it was a 5th-round pick that can de-escalate to a 6th-round.
Well,
stop
real quick. You're right. You're 100% right. That's what I was going to laugh about. But it was it's a 4th-round pick from the Eagles' perspective that can de-escalate to a 5th-round pick.
Sorry.
And they got a 7th-round pick. So you're right. I was asking around. Look, when it was first reported, Adam Schefter was the first who had the details, and you can tell where Adam got them. He got them from the Eagles. He didn't get them from Kwesi Odopa-Mensah, because I have never heard of a de-escalating conditional pick. So I give Howie credit for inventiveness there. But it's a conditional 5. And who knows? I don't know the statistical measurements. Maybe it's more likely to be a 4 than a 5. I don't know. I don't know that at that point. I imagine we'll find it out at some point relatively soon, from one side or the other. But I asked around, and I asked Zach Berman, our buddy, because he's really good at minutia. He just remembers everything. He's got a tremendous memory. I think I have a good memory, but he's got a steel trap. I have never heard of a de-escalating conditional pick. So, when everybody's lauding Howie Roseman, and look, I've been on board on this show. I think he's people say top 10. I think top 5. And I got crushed for it, believe me. Now they're on board. Again, I'll wait for my apology. But not because of this trade. Not because of this trade. Although that was very, very inventive. And people are doing circles because they think. I will give Howie, and look, yeah, I knew he's gotten offers. He's gotten multiple offers for Jalen Reagor, and he was holding out for what he wanted was a conditional 4 that could move to a 3. That's what he wanted. Dating back to the trade deadline last year, Baltimore was very interested, but they weren't going to go to that price. And Howie was waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting. He was never going to cut him. And once, teams around the NFL know, well, they're not cutting him. He in the past, they did it with Eric Rowe, somebody like that. Once you keep somebody on the 53 and clearly indicate that you're going to keep them unless you give us something. So that kind of spawned the whole thing. But yeah, I mean, I've said it from the start. It's the best path for both sides. Change of scenery. I don't know. I don't know how Jalen's going to handle going to Justin Jeffersonville, because that's all he's heard about for 2 years. But Minnesota needs a punt returner. He's going to be the punt returner. He's going to be the 4th receiver. So there's not going to be any pressure on him. They have Jefferson. They have Adam Thielen. They have KJ Osborne. He's never going to see a double team in the rest of his life, at least there. He's got a high volume thrower, which I talked about. If he can't succeed there, he's not going to succeed. And I'm rooting for him because he's a nice kid and he's a hard worker. And I think that part is, I've said it numerous times on this show, completely unfair. Those who said he didn't perform, that's fair. But, that Giants game, for instance, with the 2 drops, I just gave him a ton of respect. That was COVID. He could have hid in the locker room. We can't get in the locker room. He came out. He spoke. He's had a lot of tragedy in his life. Lost 2 close friends, Jeff Gladney most recently in a car accident. Lost his grandmother. He's had a lot of issues off the field. I'm rooting for him, and I know Eagles fans aren't, but I hope he does well. But he didn't perform here, and that part of it's fair.
And one thing you could see yesterday with the limited media availability they gave some of you guys for Eagle players, to a man, it seemed like every one of his teammates was pulling for him.
Yeah,
that they think that change of scenery could help him, and they want to see him do well. So you're right. I think he was a pretty well liked guy in the locker room, and anyone who suggested that he wasn't trying his hardest or didn't have the right attitude to play, I'm with you. I think it's just resentment because he didn't produce. But the bottom line is he didn't produce.
No, that's
good
fair.
Guys, work hard. That's nice. Appreciate it. Thank you very much. First round pick who produced as little as he did is not going to be appreciated, overly appreciated. You shouldn't be picked on, and people shouldn't make stuff up about you. You're right. But sorry, the Jalen Reagor experiment here in Philadelphia was a failure. And whether how he got a pick that can potentially de-escalate or not, I'm sorry, 2 years later for a first round draft pick, any way you slice it, it's not good. Howie's doing a saving face deal is what this is. This isn't a turn around and get better for it type deal. You used the first round pick 2 years ago, and the guy gave you basically diddly squat over those 2 years. Jalen, good luck. We wish you luck. We're pulling for you, but you will not be missed here in Philadelphia. One thing you did say I got to follow up on, though, and it plays both in Minnesota and Philadelphia. He will be the Viking punt returner.
Oh, yeah.
That's one of the things we did get to see here in Philadelphia the last 2 years, and add that to the fact that he didn't make enough plays from the line of scrimmage. He's not a real good punt returner. Why is he just being penned in as a punt returner anywhere at this stage of his career?
The same reason he was going to be the punt returner here.
He can catch him?
if he stayed, because he's the best option. They had a kid out there, Emir Smith-Marset, who they cut once they got Jalen Rager. He was disaster in the preseason, fumbles all over the place. Yeah, I mean, the Eagles don't have a punt returner. They don't have a punt returner.
That's going to be my next question,
Yeah.
bud.
You know, Britton Kobe, maybe he gets elevated. They have an open roster spot. You know, but he did nothing. He can catch the ball. So at least you have the security part of it. But he did not look like an NFL player to me in training camp. You know, maybe you throw Kenny Gainwell back there, but you know, I've seen him catch punts in practice, but I've never seen it in a game. Devontae Smith can do it, but you're not going to waste Devontae Smith, obviously.
I wouldn't say waste. I'd say risk.
All right, that's maybe a better word. But you know, I'm not risking my top tier receiver as a punt returner. So right now, and again, there's time. You know, you probably want to have your roster situated by Wednesday of next week when you start really ramping up, preparing for the opener, season opener in Detroit. I imagine it'll be clear by that point who they want. Nick Sirianni's going to talk later this morning. So I'm sure he's going to get asked that question, and I'm sure he's going to not tell us, but he'll get asked the question.
Competitive advantage.
Yeah. Probably because he doesn't know.
That too. He won't say it that way.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, I don't know. Maybe they'll have open tryouts today at practice, and just put everybody back there. You know, maybe there's one of the defensive backs that has a history, but they haven't been doing it as a punt returner. Yeah, and Minnesota was the same way.
Did Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, did he return punts in high school?
Can we find out about that? I mean, you start thinking about athletes, but you know, that's a position where, you know, back to Reno Mahe, you know, when people would be upset, that's a position where you got to have security first and then hopefully something else. And maybe that's how Britton Kobe gets on this team, because Britton Kobe, I know, can catch the football. I don't know if he can do anything else at this level, but I know he'll catch the punt. And maybe they just default to that until they can find somebody better. In Minnesota, yeah, same situation. And they don't have the history with Jalen. Remember, I say it all the time with Derek Barnett here. You know, he's not a first-round pick there. He's coming in as a reclamation project. There's not going to be these high expectations. He's expected to be the fourth receiver. So it's a different situation there than it is here. And maybe he can excel with less pressure. I don't know. But he does, and you saw it with the punt return in Green Bay as a rookie. You saw it last year. He had a 40-yard punt return. He does have some explosion, but boy, he makes bad decisions, at least here. And that part of it is, you know, who knows? If Greg Ward stayed healthy, he'd probably be the punt returner, but he's not healthy.
And he's still on the team, but it does not look good for him returning either punts and or just returning to the Eagles. All right, one other quickie before I punch up our first guest, which will be Mike Gill, our buddy from down the shore, the Sports Bash. Ian Book? Really?
Well,
Ian Book,
you're not going to like this,
roster spot. We debate on whether you need 2 or 3 quarterbacks. The coach preferred the organization like to. Ian Book, those 53-man roster spots are I think pretty important. Ian Book,
you're not going to like this, Jody. They did claim Kellen Mond, but they lost to Cleveland because they were 19th on the waiver wire. I forget what Cleveland was, but obviously they're ahead of the Eagles. And once they didn't get Kellen Mond, then they shifted towards Ian Book. Yeah, it's interesting. I don't think there's a ton of upside with Ian Book. I get from the trait standpoint why they may have they claim Mund and people get same thing with Minnesota. You know, they think, all right, this guy's got traits. We the Eagles screwed it up. We can fix it. Same thing Eagles are thinking, well, Minnesota screwed it up. We can fix them. Quarterback factory. I see the upside from a trade standpoint with Kellen Mond. I don't see that with Ian Book. I'm with you. Nick Sirianni, you know, said he's comfortable with two quarterbacks on the 53, but he's not in charge of the 53. Howie Roseman's in charge of the 53. And they had to cut Davion Taylor, and we'll see if they're able to get him back on the practice squad. But now, same thing. You're talking about a traits player with Davion Taylor, and teams might get enamored with that. So don't be surprised if he can't clear waivers, and all of a sudden you lose. I don't want to overstate it because Davion Taylor hasn't, you know, lit the world on fire, but he's got more traits to play in the NFL than Ian Book at his position.
Right.
So,
and Taylor, we at least I shouldn't speak for you. I do. I knock and mock the way the Eagles use preseason games as a non-event and not preparation for any of their key players going into the season. Oh, it is important to those who aren't starters, who aren't given with roles, and I think that was proven by Davion Taylor.
Yeah,
John, he stunk in all three games.
In the game.
He just wasn't not great. He was flat out bad, and that's why he's an ex-Eagle. Yeah. So I will give the Eagles a tip of the cap that they do at least review the tape after the game is over, done with, and go, man, this is not what we taught him. How the hell did he end up over here? He's supposed to be over there.
Well, this is how I described it, Jody. I'm with you. Preseason games don't matter for the Eagles when you do things well, but they do when you do things poorly. And it's a little bit weird because, you know, they don't care you run for 67 yards and a touchdown. They don't care if you have a big home run like Reed Sinnett and Devin Allen, but they care if you look really, really bad in preseason games. And you're right. The first 2 weeks in practice, Davion Taylor looked great. And then he gets to the preseason games and he looks terrible. So I don't want to overstate it, like I said, and say losing Davion Taylor's the end of the world, because it's not. But he's really athletic. And if that light ever turns on somewhere, you know, I would like to have him just because of those traits. But, you know, I'm not going to lose sleep that you don't have him.
If he clears waivers, you think he's back on the practice squad? Because there's a whole bunch of questions I want to ask you about the practice squad, and we got our first guest coming. But they do have one spot left on the practice squad. They only brought in one player.
Yeah, they had two spots. So yeah, they have because Matt Leo's got an exemption in perpetuity, evidently. So they have two spots on the practice squad. Yeah, and I think they'll try to bring Davion back. There's always a concern when you get cut. Look, he might look around, even if it's practice squad, even if he doesn't get claimed, and say, the Eagles cut me, I want to go somewhere else, you know. But I would think they would want him back if they can get him back on the practice squad.
Like LaMichael Pirine, who came in from the Jets, the only non-former Eagle who was in camp all year with the Eagles, who is on their practice squad. They only reached out and took someone off somebody else's cut list, not via claim for the 53, but via the practice squad. So my guess is, unless some team is either going to claim Davion Taylor or really make a push to get him on their practice squad, he'll probably be back here because the Eagles were good at bringing back all of their guys. That is kind of important if you want continuity, and I think the Eagles do lean heavily on continuity, even from preseason into filling out the practice squad. All right, John McMullen, Jody McDonald. We got a lot to discuss today with as many moves as the Eagles have made. Some pretty big will have an effect on the Eagles immediately. Some down the road. Some are basically filling out paperwork. But sorry for you guys on the practice squad, where I don't think we'll ever see the 53-man this year. Hey, you're still in the National Football League. You're still getting paid to practice. Good on you. More power to you if that's what you want to do. First guest coming up, we get Mike Gillup from the Sports Bash down the shore. A little later on in the show, we'll have our buddy Dave Zangaro from NBC Sports today. So we've got a good show planned for you. He's McMullen. I'm McDonald. It's Mac and Mac Birds 365.
Go passionately. Go fearlessly. Go confidently.
Go Birds!
Go confidently towards your goals with First Trust, Philly's hometown bank for nearly 90 years, and the official bank of the Philadelphia Eagles. We're focused on getting you over the goal line. So go with conviction. Go with trust.
Go Birds!
And go forward with us by your side. First Trust Bank, the official bank of Philadelphia dreams. Oh, and go Birds.
Is an icon.
A Philadelphia treasure.
He's a mentor, a pace setter.
Jim is my North Star.
He's trusted, revered,
Appreciated.
He is Action News.
He's compassionate. Honest.
And fair.
He is extremely dedicated,
Motivated. And always seeking the truth.
He's also funny.
We are a team of many.
Jim Gardner is our leader. And we're lucky to have him.
At Stateside Vodka, every new customer gets the world's best rocks glass, free.
You're telling me that bottle is cut in half?
You could say that.
Go for the pulls and the pools. Go for the oohs and the ahs. Go for the bubbles and the bubbly. Go for the story and the stories. Go for the win. Go to Ocean Casino Resort. Book your trip at theoceanac.com.
Coming back in with Birds 365, McMullen, McDonald, and proudly wearing his WVU t-shirt today. You ready to rock there, big guy?
Backyard brawl tonight, baby.
Yeah. Avante Maddox was excited about that yesterday, Mike, but the other side, obviously. Yeah, it's been a while. Why has it been so long?
Well, West Virginia changed conferences. They're in the Big 12 and Pitt's in the ACC. So I guess scheduling, they couldn't get together. But for one night only, it's back.
Yeah.
I was going to go to the game. I'm actually off today and tomorrow. I'm not back on until Tuesday. So I thought about going.
I pulled you in. I apologize for that. I pulled you in because I screwed up yesterday. It's been a rough couple days for me.
It's all right. I got a lot going on.
West Virginia. Where's the game? I don't even know. Shame on me.
It's in Pitt.
Okay.
All right.
Is
now,
give
us a scouting report on West Virginia. Are they supposed to be good this year? What are we talking about? Who's favored in this game?
Pitt's favored by 7.5. I like the under. JT Daniels is the quarterback at West Virginia. He was at Georgia.
Yeah, I
And
remember JT.
Pat
Big hype
Slovis.
for JT.
Slovis is the quarterback at Pitt. He
Oh,
was
that's right.
He was at
Southern
USC.
Cal. Yeah.
I'm just happy that Doji is gone. That guy had been at West Virginia. He was bad all 5 years, and he thought about staying for a sixth.
It's amazing because now that you bring up Daniels and Slovis, yeah, that hype for quarterbacks early in college, it can go drastically wrong. It can go
JT Daniels was at Georgia. He was the starter at Georgia.
Yeah.
He ended up getting hurt, and now he's at West Virginia. West Virginia has found a lot of those transfers. They got Will Greer. You know, they've gotten guys to transfer there and then turned out to be pretty good. So I'm hoping Daniels, but they're in the middle. This whole college football with the conferences is a mess.
Hey, one more West Virginia note that I promise we get to the Eagles. Are you now a Seahawk fan because Geno Smith is there starting?
No, poor Geno.
You're not a Geno guy either. You had him in college. I had him to start his NFL career with the Jets. God bless you, Geno. I don't know why you're still throwing the football.
But Jody, I'm a big what was that, 2017 or 18 when you had Shelton Gibson and Rasul Douglas drafted by the Eagles. But I am a big Kaiser White guy.
Okay.
Kaiser had a good preseason. He'll be the Eagles' starting linebacker with TJ Edwards, and we'll see if Nakobe Dean can kind of mix in. I guess we'll start there because the Eagles' machinations, Mike, one of them, the trade of Jalen Reagor, we're going to get into, obviously, but one of them is because of the timing. I mean, in claiming Ian Book on waivers, they had to cut Davion Taylor. Why do you think the Eagles need that third quarterback in the modern environment? Nick Sirianni said, I don't really care. Keep him on the practice squad. But Howie's intent, and he tried to claim Kellen Mond, and he had to go to Ian Book. I don't see the upside there. Why are you giving up on Davion Taylor for Ian Book?
No, but I will say I was watching you guys yesterday and Jody pontificating about how Reagor has no value. What kind of hat did rabbit did?
I warned him. He wouldn't listen to me.
What kind of rabbit did Roseman pull out of the hat on that one? We laughed yesterday on my show. I said,
hold on. Let me pontificate again. Howie Roseman turned a first-round pick into
it wasn't that great. Jody's right about that.
Escalating fifth and a seventh. Holy crap, Jose, let me bow. I am not worthy to comment or pontificate on Howie Roseman. Howie was able to take a first-round pick and 2 years later turn it into a de-escalating fifth-round pick and a seventh. You're right, Mike. What the hell was I thinking yesterday?
That part of it was
my God.
That part of it was correct. There was two things you said yesterday that stood out to me, but I'll get you to the other one. We laughed on my show yesterday about what is Reed Sinnett going to do? Is he like the backup holder? Like, what is a fourth quarterback in a practice going to do? I mean, you got Hurts who gets all the reps. You get Gardner Minshew who gets, 5% of the reps? The third guy does the scout team. What is Reed Sinnett going to do? I don't know. I mean, this is one of those things where maybe
you got to stock the shelves on the quarterback factory, Mike. You got to stock the shelves.
Exactly. This is one of those things where maybe he thinks one of these guys will have some sort of late round draft pick value somewhere down the line if somebody gets hurt. Oh, that guy Book was a fourth round pick. The Eagles have him. I'll call them up because they got 4 quarterbacks. If you have more, my buddy used to do this in fantasy football. He would draft 14 running backs just because he figured if somebody got hurt, you have to call me because I have all the running backs on my team. So Howie Roseman's like, I'm going to just keep getting quarterbacks because if someone gets hurt, I've got the most.
Hey, Howie's good at getting value in these particular trades. Now, in the case of Jalen Reagor, as Jody points out, he's correct. I mean, the people lauding Howie Roseman for this one, he's a first-round pick in 2020. First time ever, I've heard, and you've been on the air for a long time, so if you can remember one, let me know. But I've never heard of a de-escalating conditional pick. So Howie created something to make himself look better. Now, the part that was true is the Eagles had multiple offers along the way dating back to last the trade deadline last season for Jalen Reagor. So I knew they could get something for him. But the problem was how he was waiting and waiting and waiting and hoping he could get a real conditional 4 that would turn into a 3. And I said, wow, I just don't see that happening. And ultimately he tapped out in the end when he had to. So he salvaged the best of a bad situation. And he's a very good GM, but people pointing to this as some kind of validation, that part I disagree with.
Well, no, and listen, we asked this question yesterday, and that when you ask, what are the moves that Roseman has made that have just been the wrong move? Rager's name comes up all the time. Then most people go to JJ. But the Arcega-Whiteside thing is because they wanted Metcalf. They weren't getting Metcalf. Yeah, so you can't say he drafted. Other than that, the one that I come up with is the Alshon Jeffrey contract. I think that was probably a major mistake. You can say the Wentz deal that they didn't need to sign Wentz, but teams, if you get your quarterback.
Yeah.
But other than that, where has he made a move that has just been, or multiple moves? You're going to make mistakes in the draft. Yes, Reagor was a mistake, but I have to understand I'm not hitting 1,000 in the draft, especially drafting in the 20s. Like if I make a mistake, okay, but can I fix my mistake? Can I clean my mistakes up? And that's what I think. Look, teams are built in multiple ways. I feel like because the draft is such an event that we hold the draft higher in team building than cap management, making trades, finding free agents, filling the roster. And that's where I think the Eagles, are they better at that than drafting? I don't know. Look at this team. Their whole offensive line is drafted. Every single guy they drafted. The whole thing. How many teams can say their whole starting offensive line, which is the best in football, was drafted by the team? Not too many. Do they make mistakes on corners, wide receivers? Yes. You got to be able to say, okay, here's what bothers me about not only Roseman, all GMs. When you make a mistake, just acknowledge it. The fans will say, okay, you made a mistake, and you acknowledge. They hold on to these guys just hoping and waiting that they're going to turn because, well, I drafted them, I have to keep them. No, get rid of them. Make the mistake and move on. And they just don't do that. But overall, yes, they made the mistake drafting him, but to be able to say, all right, this is what I got in return. And I think it was a big thing, guys, to get him out, Arcega-Whiteside out, to change the perception of the room. These guys are no longer here. This is a new mindset of our locker room.
Well, I'll give you one, Mike. I'll give you under-over on Derek Barnett sacks this year at 3.5. If you can tell me over.
Not a good pick. Not a good pick.
And not a good pick. And then they re-signed him. So you were just talking about, hey, you got to move on from your mistakes. They went back and re-signed him again this year. How would you describe that?
I don't mind the re-sign at the value. He's going to be a rotational player. He was drafted to not be a rotational player.
Yeah,
that's the mistake. Exactly. The re-sign, okay, you want to be a situational pass rusher. I'm okay with that. But as a 14th overall pick in that draft, it has not worked out.
Yeah, here's the problem with Derek Barnett. If it was in another city, it would be fine because he doesn't. Because it's similar to Jalen Reagor now in Minnesota. He's not a first-round pick there. So he doesn't have first-round expectations. He's the fourth receiver. He's the punt returner. If Derek Barnett went somewhere else, he's not a first-round pick. They'd say, hey, that's a pretty good situational pass rusher. The problem is the Eagles re-signed him. And everybody's going to say first-round pick, first-round pick, first-round pick. Those expectations are real.
Yeah.
And
listen, is there a Browns 365, a Steelers 365, a Colts 365? No. You guys will pontificate. There's the word twice. Sorry. I watched that episode last night about the practice squad and which guys will get time.
Oh, yeah. We're going to get to the practice squad.
We seem to overanalyze this team and the moves they make. Getting Derek Barnett back as a situational pass rusher in 31 cities is A-okay. But in this city, it gets ripped apart because of the fact that he was somewhat of a bust as a first-round pick, which is a fair comment that he was a bust as a first-round pick.
So
No, he had the
that's why-
biggest recovery in the history of
That's
the
why I
franchise.
say he needs to move on. You can't just wipe it away. You can't make the people forget that he was a first-round pick. He was a first-round pick here in Philadelphia. And when you resign him, he stays a first-round pick here in Philadelphia. Let him go sign with somebody else. The Eagles,
As long as he doesn't get first-round pick playing time.
Yeah, and he's not, and barring injury, of course, but that's for everybody. He's not. He's going to be a rotational player, but I do think that affects him here where it wouldn't affect him in another city. So,
and like as much as it's frustrating that you miss on the first round because it's that first round guy, you balance it out that Josh Sweat was a fourth. You're not expecting a fourth round pick to do what he does. You miss on Dillard, and I don't know if you missed on Dillard. He just got beat out by a guy who's a seventh round pick. You don't anticipate your seventh round pick becoming a franchise level left tackle. So you kind of take the yin and the yang. It's just that we want to be, I don't want to say greedy's not the word, but it's like, well, what if that first round pick worked out and the seventh round pick worked out? You can't, because Dillard is a first round pick who I think in most situations, Andre Dillard's going to start for 20 teams in this league. It just happens to be he's on one that he's not going to start on.
Yeah, I don't know about 20, but I'd say 10. But Jordan Mailata is a unicorn. Yeah, I mean it is interesting. Like they have a franchise left tackle. Why do you care where the franchise left tackle comes from? Jason Kelsey was a 6th-round pick. You found a franchise center. Who cares where he came from?
Yeah.
On and on and on. But it seems like pedigree. With fans and to a certain extent, even general managers, they're obsessed with pedigree. They're obsessed with it.
And I think the other way, like if I'm the GM, I like to throw it in people's face that I found a guy in the 7th round. I got the 6th round guy, and we're playing a guy who's in the 6th round, and you're still trotting out a 2nd round pick who can't play a lick just because of you drafted him in the 2nd round.
Well, they do it with the undrafted guys. They all go, oh, look at me. Look, I found Reed Blankenship. I found Josh Jobe. I found Josh Sills. So they do it with the undrafted guys.
Well, that was my other one yesterday, Jody. You mentioned about Gardner Johnson, that if the Eagles liked him so much, they could have drafted him himself. Well, where he was drafted, the 3rd pick of the 3rd round, the Eagles did not have a pick anywhere near where he was. They didn't have a 3rd round pick. He got picked in the 4th round, the 3rd pick of the 4th round. They didn't have a 3rd round pick, and their 4th round pick was like 2nd from the bottom. So they really weren't in position to take him if they liked him.
Right. Well, they could have traded back into the 3rd round. It was my point. If they really liked him, they could have.
They were pretty far off.
Mike, once you get into day 3, you can maneuver to get anybody you want.
Yeah.
The value of the picks is significantly down. Anybody can be had if you really like the guy. You got day 1, and then they all huddle together and reevaluate. Then you got day 2, and then they all huddle together, reevaluate. So if you really want a guy in day 3, you can go get him. It's really not all that hard. I think every general manager on the planet would tell you that's the case. So that was the point I was making.
Well, keep in mind, they only had 5 picks for those 2 years. So maneuvering about 30 spots was going to be kind of difficult. But, hey, look, they got a guy they seem to like. We'll see what he does. And, I said, look, that trade is not making them a Super Bowl team. You don't make that trade and say, now
that's Ronnie Lott, I'm told, Mike.
Right,
that's
exactly.
Ronnie Lott.
You don't make that trade and say, well, now we're a Super Bowl team. But what I will say is you make that trade because you already have the mindset that you're there.
Well, here's my not a concern, because I think it was a good trade. And I want to emphasize that again, because Jody knows this. I have to emphasize things. I think it was a good trade. The Eagles got younger. They got more athletic. However, I'm also going to point out, well, we're 10 days before the season opener. They had a 7-year safety who couldn't learn the defense, evidently, in the summer, even though they're playing the same scheme, because it's different terminology in Jaquiski Tart. If he can't learn the defense in a summer, how is a guy who's never played the position going to a completely new scheme, because New Orleans doesn't play the Fangio scheme, at least yet. They'll get to it. how is he going to learn this defense in 10 stinking days? Or are we going to see Kayvon Wallace in Detroit as the starting safety?
Right. No, that's a definite concern is how long will it take Gardner Johnson to kind of get up to speed? You know, I was talking about this yesterday. One of my guests who played in the league, man, I'm blanked on my days already. See, John, I blank on my days too. But he had talked about when you got a playbook, because he had played in Kansas City and then in St. Louis, and just the overwhelming nature of getting a playbook that fast and trying to learn it is daunting for some people, depending on position. But, you know, he was an offensive lineman. Joe Valerio, sorry. He was an offensive lineman. And just trying to learn plays that fast. Now, I would think it's a lot more intricate to where he had Marty Schottenheimer running 4 plays, right? Handoff left, handoff right, and then switching to St. Louis with Rich Brooks. Whereas in now, you probably have a Bible of plays that you're trying to figure out and run. So, yeah, I think that's definitely going to be something to keep an eye on is how fast. And look, he doesn't have a game, a joint practice or a game to get his feet wet to learn those plays.
Johnny Mac, don't sweat Kayvon Wallace. Less than 20 snaps in Detroit. They will throw Mr. Johnson out there whether he's ready or not. He's going to be their safety. I will go out on the limb and predict that right now. Gannon is going to throw the playbook at him and throw him in the deep end of the pool and say, "We got faith in you, big guy. Go out there and make."
He did play some safety at Florida. He played. Yeah, he was a beast in Florida, man. Whew.
Yeah, he played the star position at Florida, so he was
How
much
that he was taken early in the 4th round. Man, he was great at Florida.
He's a little small, I would think, you know, to be your typical first-round safety. I mean, he's a little smaller, but man, he was a player at Florida. I remember in 2017, he had that interception return for a touchdown against South Carolina. I mean, he was fun to watch.
You know, he's a good player, but you know, he's been a good slot cornerback, and now he's got to be a good safety, and he's got to be a good safety. You know, if you're talking about week 9, week 10, yeah, he should be up to speed, but I don't know that first month. And yeah, you know, we're just talking about Jalen Reagor, about the expectations, Derek Barnett. Well, now, but all of a sudden, you know, you got all this hype for Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, not quite to that level, but what if he shows up and he's busting coverages because he doesn't know the defense in week 1? Jody is probably right. They're going to throw him in the deep end of the pool. So they're playing a bad football team in week 1. What if Amon St. Brown runs by him because he busts the covers, because he screws the coverage, and all of a sudden Eagles fans are all over him? I could see this happening. Mm-hmm. It doesn't take it's not a stretch to think that might be the case.
No, definitely. I mean, not to say that if you put Kayvon Wallace out there or somebody else, that wouldn't happen.
He'll know the coverage and bust
Brown runs by him too.
Yeah,
right.
And let Tyreek Hill run right. Well, that's not fair because Tyreek runs by everybody. But
I've been asked so much in the last week about my thoughts on John Gannon with, you know, this talent, and I'm giving the guy the benefit of the doubt that he didn't have the personnel to run the defense. So I'm not ready to say this guy is a total failure, but I'm certainly saying I would think the Budweiser hot seat has his rear end in it right now.
I think there's as good a chance he's a head coach in the National Football League.
I think there's a better chance he's a head coach than next year.
Yes, but that must mean that the defense played well. If this defense doesn't play well, our team's going to say, man, look at all the talent this guy had, and he still didn't have it. Like last year's defense, I just say they just didn't have the talent. What were you thinking?
And he almost got a job there, Mike, because, you know, that guy can win over anybody in 5 minutes. So that's part of it, you know, building relationships and all that kind of stuff. But, you know, he had the 10th ranked defense in conventional standards with that garbage the Eagles had on that side of the football. So he's well regarded around the NFL. I don't know how you fall flat on your face with this defense. I don't know. There's too much talent. If he does, I think his biggest problem.
That's how. Well, you have a safety that's out of position.
Yeah. Now, the biggest problem for Jonathan Gannon to me is everybody's looking to hire offensive guys to be ahead. That's his biggest issue because very few teams want to go the defensive route at head coach now. So you're already behind the 8 ball a little bit. But since we got into coaching, I'll shift it to the offensive side. I think because of all the talk about Gannon, like Nick Sirianni's kind of skating under the radar as a second-year coach. Everybody's like, well, Nick's good. Nick's solid. Nick's this. Gave up the play calling. What if this offense underachieves? Where are we with Nick Sirianni?
I think it's a fair question because Sirianni, you're right. I feel like he has, he wears the T-shirts. He seems to know the role, shows up at somebody's wedding in Sea Isle. He knows when to kind of like tug on the strings of the Eagle fan. So I feel like he's a popular guy, but we don't know much about him. What does he do well? Well, I think what he did well last year was he made the necessary adjustments. I mean, that team was throwing. He got criticized, and he said, okay, fine. I got a good offensive line. Let's do this. And it worked for him. So he's willing to make the adjustment on the fly. The players seem to like him. He seems to have the locker room. But that only gets you so far, right? You can only be Tim Tebow for so long before you've got to then perform. So, yeah, if this team struggles a little bit, the question will be, does he make another adjustment on the fly? Hey, Shane Steichen, I gave you the plays. I gave you the ability, and it's not working. I'm going to take it back. We're going to change the offense. I'm going to change the quarterback. I know, Jody, you've been asking how long's his leash. I think that's what Sirianni's season really is what kind of leader and manager and adjustment guy he is, more so than the X's and O's, right?
Agreed. And one last Gannon point. What Gannon reminds me of, guys? The Phillies manager. And I'm not talking about the present guy. I'm just talking in general. When the Phillies manager gets something wrong, it's always on him. When he gets something right, it's expected. It's just a given. Give credit to the players. But when something goes awry, it's the man. Same thing with Gannon. Last year, the Eagles defense wasn't good because of Gannon. This year, when the Eagle defense is good, it's going to be because Howie Roseman went and got him players. You lose. See, I'm telling you, that's the way it's going to. That's just the way Philadelphia evaluates its defensive coordinates.
Everything. It's everything, Jody.
Well, except Jim Johnson. But, you have to play a certain way, Jody. That's
right.
it.
Jim Johnson just played the way Eagle fans prefer a defensive coordinator to play.
Yeah.
If you're gonna stray from that at all, if you're not Buddy Ryan or Jim Johnson, you better have the best defense in football. Anything short of that, you're gonna come down on the.
And you're 100% right
side.
Because he'll go and said, "I don't give a what about sacks," and people don't like him.
We have a very unique way in this town of choosing personality over performance, where Buddy Ryan is very popular. He won as much as I did in the playoffs, and we didn't like Andy Reid very much because he constantly lost big games. So we'll take the guy who told people he'd punch Jimmy Johnson in the face or, was very bravado. And we didn't like Andy because, time's yours. He was very boring. So we like personality over performance in this town. That's a given.
Last one from me at Mike Gill Show, 97.3 ESPN South Jersey. Drive time 2 to 6 every day, although Mike's off today. Who's on today, Josh? Josh Henning?
Josh is in today and tomorrow. I'll be back on Tuesday.
All right, Tuesday. Just breaking right now, Russell Wilson, 5-year, $245 million contract extension. Eagles are going to have to deal with this after this season. It's great. Jalen Hurts is great right now. We're paying him $2 million for that kind of production. That's phenomenal. If you have to pay, 35, 40
Rocco
million?
Wilson just got, what was that, 50 million, 49 million?
49.
Yeah.
Well,
that's the going rate.
I know.
For a second quarterback contract, how does that change? And it's keep going up. We don't have Lamar Jackson. It's going to keep going up and up and up and up. And Jalen Hurts. Do the Eagles want to be in that neighborhood for a quarterback that isn't what Jeffrey Lurie wants when it comes to the so-called high octane passing game? Did they even want to be in that neighborhood?
I don't think anybody wants to be in that neighborhood, but you almost get to the point where you don't have a choice but to have to be in that neighborhood. Look, this roster this year is a byproduct of not having to pay the quarterback. There's so many examples around the league that once you pay that quarterback, Seattle could not sustain it anymore, and they had to end up parting ways with Russell Wilson. You know, so many teams pay that quarterback. Dak Prescott gets paid. You already paid Zeke Elliott. Well, now I have to trade Amari Cooper. I have to start moving pieces. So all of these teams, Tennessee, they signed Tannehill. They gave that contract to Derrick Henry. You can't afford A.J. Brown. All of these teams hit that crossroad of, if we sign this big deal, somebody's got to go. The problem is, who's there to replace that guy?
Ian Book?
Well, that's why you carry 4 quarterbacks, is to try to find a guy who's competent enough to win, but maybe not a franchise quarterback, so I don't have to pay him.
All right, last one from me, Mike Gill. A little bit of a prediction 10 days out before the season starts, and it's a legit question because Miles Sanders is still not practicing. Now, we're all assuming they'll be fine for game 1. Maybe goes in, carries the ball in the first play. Oops, here comes Miles to the sidelines. Who's going to step in? Is it going to be Boston Scott or is it going to be Kenny Gainwell?
Well, if it's in a game, it would be Boston Scott. I mean, Scott seems to be the guy they go to in, like a week or 2 increment. You're out for a week or 2. I don't know that they would go to him for 17 weeks, but if it was hey, he's out for 2 to 3 weeks, I think you see Scott there. If it's a longer term, Jordan Howard's probably hanging out in a
no, they got LaMichael
Pirine. Yeah, Pirine's a nice player. Yeah, Pirine's a nice player, Jody, right? Big guy, big back, right?
Yeah, they won.
220.
He's got a little size to him. He's not Jordan Howard, but he's got a little size to him.
I like Scott. Anytime Scott gets a call, he always performs. So if it's short term, Scott would be the guy. I think if it's a longer term thing, you probably see a Jordan Howard, or maybe they do what they did a couple of years ago. I know they had LeGarrette Blount at that time, but they made the call and got Jay Ajayi. So you always have that option with Howie Roseman.
We shall see. Michael, always a pleasure. Appreciate you hopping on board. Enjoy the it's not the backyard brawl, it's the transfer showdown at quarterback tonight between Pittsburgh and West Virginia. Enjoy, bud. We appreciate it.
All right, guys. See ya.
Thanks,
Mike Gill, Sports Bash, 97.3 ESPN down the shore. All right, he's McMullen. I'm McDonald. That makes this Mac and Mac Birds 365. Yeah, we never even got to the practice squad. No great surprises there, but I want to get a couple of thoughts from Johnny Mac next. He's McMullen. I'm McDonald. You got Birds 365 right here.
Go passionately. Go fearlessly. Go confidently.
Go Birds!
Go confidently towards your goals with First Trust, Philly's hometown bank for nearly 90 years, and the official bank of the Philadelphia Eagles. We're focused on getting you over the goal line. So go with conviction. Go with trust.
Go Birds!
And go forward with us by your side. First Trust Bank, the official bank of Philadelphia dreams. Oh, and go Birds.
is an icon.
A Philadelphia treasure.
He's a mentor, a pace setter.
Jim is my North Star.
He's trusted, revered.
Appreciated.
He is Action News.
He's compassionate, honest,
and fair.
He is extremely dedicated,
motivated, and always seeking the truth.
He's also funny.
We are a team of many.
Jim Gardner is our leader, and we're lucky to have him.
At Stateside Vodka, every new customer gets the world's best rocks glass, free.
You're telling me that bottle is cut in half?
You could say that.
Go for the pulls and the pools. Go for the oohs and the ahs. Go for the bubbles and the bubbly. Go for the story and the stories. Go for the win. Go to Ocean Casino Resort. Book your trip at theoceanac.com.
John McMullen and Jody McDonald, your Mac Bird 365 guys. If you streamed on in today, that means you at least like the show a little bit. Do you like it a little bit? If you do, hit that like button. Give us a helping hand with our algorithm. What are we going to ask them to do, John?
Like, share, subscribe. Like, share, subscribe. We're exploding here on the JAKIB Sports channel.
Oh, I hope we're not exploding like Jalen Reagor, because we kept saying that about Reagor. Exploded all the way out of town. How did all his exploding?
Yeah, he's got explosive traits. By the way, you were right. I forgot to add LaMichael Pirine into the practice squad. So the Eagles do have one spot. So they have one spot left. Yeah.
And I saw Pirine play both the last 2 years for the Jets. Okay, nothing special. 4th round pick. They gave him a chance. He did carry the ball.
He's special here. They need something at running back. So, hopefully he's got some. What was he? A 4th round pick, I think.
Yeah, 4th.
Yeah, I don't know how things worked out for him with the Jets, but he is about 215. So, at least he brings that kind of presence that they haven't had, and we've been expecting the Eagles to add that, and we'll see if it works out a little bit. But we were talking about if something happens to Miles Sanders. I agree with Mike. It'll be Boston Scott, and they'll just keep Kenny Gainwell as the 3rd down hurry-up back, so they won't ship that. And if they need a big back later in the season like Jordan Howard, they'll have to see obviously what Pirine does in practice and all that, but he would be the guy, I would think, right now.
See, having watched him play with the Jets the last couple of years, and yeah, I've seen every single Jet game, because if I don't see it, I tape it, I get back to it. It depends on how you want to define power runner. I'll tell you just my personal scouting opinion. Boston Scott is a better power runner than LaMichael Pirine. Pirine might be a little physically bigger, but that doesn't really mean anything. You have to be willing to throw that shoulder in there and move the pile against 2 guys. I don't want to call him a cutback runner. He's surely not a speed runner. He's not a guy who's just going to get to the corner and out sprint the guy and be able to turn it upfield and get 3 or 4 extra yards. But he's not a plow ahead type runner either. And I think that's what Eagle fans have been looking for. We need a guy who's going to move the pile. LaMichael Pirine is not that back. If that's what the Eagles are signing him for, I'll tell you, I've watched the last couple of years and said, he's not going to do that for you. Boston Scott is better at his smaller size, better moving the pile than LaMichael Pirine is. I'll give you a guy who is kind of like LaMichael Pirine, except for me, only better. And if need be, drop the shoulder, move the pile, a guy that could absolutely get you that 2 yards when you need it on 3rd and 2. Trey Sermon from Ohio State was cut yesterday by the 49ers. Now, I thought he was going to be a big-time back, like a starting back type guy, a bell cow-like back, and he has not been that for the 49ers since he was drafted. I was actually surprised the NFL had this one more right than I did. I thought he could be a second-round pick. I think he was 4th for the 49ers.
I think he was third, but I'm not. I'll look him up real quick.
Yeah, I thought he had a chance to be early day too, and he wasn't. But the 49ers cut him, and here's why.
Third round, 88th overall.
Okay, yeah, I thought he could go higher than that. So, and now the fact that he's cut just.
By the way, he started at Oklahoma before he went to Ohio State. And he was in the same backfield with Kennedy Brooks, Trey Sermon. Yeah.
And Kennedy is one of the returning practice squad guys for the Eagles. Good for him. If you're just looking for the power guy who can just purely with his physicality move a pile and get a first down, I think he's better than LaMichael Pirine. Did the Eagles miss out on an opportunity here, or have I just been overrating Sermon since I saw him go stone cold dominant at Ohio State?
When we're talking about practice guys, I mean, yeah, it's tough to say. I haven't seen either of them play that much. I will say San Francisco is the best running scheme in football. So, if he didn't succeed there, that's kind of a
bad sign,
a red flag for me.
Speaking of which, and I'm sorry to interrupt, John, I just got to double check this. Did I miss Jaquiski Tart signing with somebody yesterday?
That I missed it.
Okay.
It happened,
but neither one.
Yeah,
just had to double check because I tried to stay on top of this stuff. You're better at than me. I just needed to make sure I didn't miss something that he had actually signed on with someone.
Yeah. Did we get an apology? I don't know. I'm waiting for my Howie Roseman apologies too. I got lambasted when I said he was a top 5 GM. Now everybody will say top 10 now. They won't go top 5, but he is top 5.
He's borderline top 5. He's certainly top 10, and he might be number 5.
I got murdered for that.
I'm close with you on that one, Mac.
I got murdered for that, but it doesn't matter. It's part of the gig. Yeah, Jaquiski Tart. I did hear, and I meant to go back and look. I didn't see it. I think he posted something on Twitter about not getting an opportunity or something of that nature, but I don't know.
The Eagles?
Yeah.
Really? I don't follow.
Yeah. And I never went back and looked, but yeah, that was weird. I mean, as much as I snickered at, he's a great safety, he's this, he's that. I did think he had, a chance to make this team, and he didn't. Like I said, he didn't even get one first team rep the entire preseason. But they were able to get Anthony Harris back on the practice squad. I still think that's a mistake for this reason. And I go back, and I always tell you, Moneyball is one of my favorite movies. Baseball, not football, but I always hear that Jonah Hill line. Your goal is not to buy players. Your goal is to buy wins. I was just talking about week 1 in Detroit. Now they're probably going to win the game. We're both on that same, and you even more so than me.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be competitive.
I'm concerned about not having Chauncey Gardner-Johnson up to speed. I'm concerned about having to put Kayvon Wallace or Reed Blankenship out there if he's not up to speed.
He's going to be up to speed. Believe me, let me reiterate. They're throwing him in the deep end of the pool.
Yeah. Either way, if you're right, and I think you're going to be right, my point is he might not be ready. They can throw him in the deep end of the pool, but if he's blowing coverages, what good does that do you?
He's got to swim, yes.
Yeah. Anthony Harris signed for $2.5 million, Jody. They already paid him $1 million of that in the guarantee and the signing bonus. So, they're doing this thing, the week one thing that I explained with Jaquaski Tart. If he's on the roster week one, that $1.5 million completely guaranteed. Who cares? Would you pay $1.5 million to have competency as an insurance policy for week one? Buy a win. Go buy a win and have competency. I don't understand why they just didn't keep Anthony Harris on the roster. And guess what? Then if you can cut him and Chauncey Gardner-Johnson is ready to go, cut him then. So $1.5 million. Who cares?
That's what I said about Mr. Tart, because that same theory was espoused that I think it was you said maybe they'll drop him and then bring him back. Why? Why bother? Really? Yeah. The flexibility of being able to get out from underneath means that much?
They're really obsessed with it.
The reason they cut Tart was because Tart wasn't good enough. Not because his salary was cumbersome. They signed him to the salary. They decided they could afford the salary. The flexibility of being able to cut him is ridiculous.
No, I'm with you with Tart. They just cut him because he deserved to be cut. But with Harris, I could see him being back in week two. And I could see them doing that. Let's save the money. Let's be fiscally sound, or whatever you want to call it. I could see him being back in week two when the salary's not being guaranteed as that insurance policy. Remember, week two, Minnesota, Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, KJ Osborne, now Jalen Reagor. You can't blow coverages against those guys with Kirk Cousins throwing the football. I could see Anthony Harris back in week two. The $1.5 million for this team as an insurance policy, I disagree with the wrangling, even though they were able to get the player back.
Here's why I'm a little bit more. I think your point is dead on. But it's a hedge by the Eagles, and I'm okay with the hedge just because of the way the schedule lays itself out. Week one, Gardner-Johnson's going to be in there. I think he's going to swim just fine. I think it was overstated a little bit by Howie Roseman and Nick Sirianni that the mirroring of being a nickel cornerback and safety in the Eagles system.
Yeah, by the way, we asked Devontae Maddox. He didn't know what the hell we were talking about. He's like, no, they're two completely different positions.
I think it was overstated by the powers that be when they announced the trade, but there are certainly similarities. I think he'll be kind of shaky week number one, but I don't think he's going to drown. If they're throwing him in the deep end of the pool, I don't think he'll drown. I don't think I'm on St. Brown will run right by him and catch an 80-yard touchdown pass. No, I'm not worried about that. But there might be enough on tape for them to go, yeah, we still need to give him time. We acknowledge we threw him into the deep end of the pool. And then, I'm going to want somebody I can throw in and trust the second week of the season. That's why they did what they did. If they had lost the player because you put him on waivers and he signed somewhere else, then I go, they rolled the dice here and they paid a price. They didn't. They got him back for the practice squad. They can plug him in if need be, week 2, week 3, whatever, until their starting safety gets up to speed with doing everything. I think maybe there's some luck involved, but I think they actually played their cards the right way there, John.
You're probably right, but it is a calculated gamble.
Yeah, it was.
And that's all I'm saying. But it still is. Even though they got the player back on the practice squad, it still is because you don't have them for week one. And at least you would have had that insurance policy for $1.5 million. That's how I look at it. You would have been very comfortable in week one for $1.5 million. Is that worth it? For the Eagles, it wasn't worth it. I disagree with that. That's all I'm trying to say.
Okay.
It'll probably work out. I'm with you. I'm still going to pick the Eagles to win the game. I think you're right. I think Gardner-Johnson will be thrown into the deep end of the pool. I think he'll struggle a little bit, but he'll do enough to win the game. And week 2, they might have Anthony Harris back and they might have the insurance policy and everything works out. That little inkling, I it bothers me because it's such a cheap price tag. That's the only reason it bothers me.
Here's what it comes down to. I think it's pretty darn simple. If they had cut Reed Blankenship, would anybody else have claimed him? They like the player.
I doubt it.
They
I
think
doubt
he's
it.
going to be a real good player
if they
down
would
the
have
road.
If they would have cut Kayvon Wallace, nobody was claiming Kayvon Wallace.
Okay, you want to go Kayvon instead. You're probably right. The guy who was more likely to be claimed was probably Blankenship over Cave. Yeah, you're right.
Look, Jody, 33 stinking players got claimed. So everybody overrates this every year. And by the way, two Eagles got claimed. Jack Anderson, no surprise there, because I thought Jack was going to make this football team. The Eagles have a reputation for developing offensive linemen. But Josh Blackwell got claimed, which I did not see coming. The Eagles waived him before and brought him back.
He didn't get claimed when they cut from 85 to 80.
But the Chicago Bears claimed 6 of those 33. How bad is that roster? The Giants, I believe, claimed 4, or I think Jacksonville was at 5. We know that's a bad roster. Giants were 4, and they got Jack Anderson, and they're gonna get a good player in Jack Anderson. I think he can play a little bit. But Tone brings up, why not demote Kayvon Wallace to the practice squad and elevate Anthony Harris? Yeah, you can do that, but then his salary's guaranteed for the entire year, which is the whole reason they cut him. So I hope they come to their senses over the next week and just elevate Anthony Harris and say, you know what, we probably shouldn't have done that, and we'll pay him the $1.5 million and be done with it and pay him for the whole season. Then you have that competency on the back end just in case as an insurance policy. But the fact that they cut him, they're not going to bring him right back because he's vested. And if he's on the roster week 1, his salary's guaranteed for the entire season.
You know what it'll probably be decided upon? They've now thrown him into the pool practice. If he is doing the doggy paddle and looking okay, then they're not going to do anything. If his head's underwater and he seems lost, then it seems like it's a bit too much. Then they may actually go to that, John. They may go,
and then they got lucky then, because they could have lost the player.
Could have,
and then it's just pure luck.
It's
but
a little luck.
Then you
involved,
should have just kept him. Yeah. Cheap insurance.
That's what they pay Howie Roseman for, is to have a read on the rest of the league. You got to know your own team, but you also got to know what the other 31 teams are going to do, or at least have a good guesstimate at what they're going to do. And he guesstimated right that no one.
Well, the curveball, you're right, but the curveball is the player might be upset and not want to return.
True, but once you get him done, you also have to be able to read that the guy will come back and I'm sure you saw it. NBC Sports had a real nice feature on him. To his credit, he went out and did a personal appearance for a charity, even after he was given his walking.
Oh, he's a great dude
over in Cherry Hill. So
dude.
You could tell he was a Philly guy, really likes his time here in Philly. So maybe they relied on that to, in part, make their decision. And we'll see. Maybe he's elevated. Maybe he is back on the roster, and the Eagles go, yeah, McMullen's right. We're arguing over pennies here. It's a $1 billion industry, and we're going to pay him. What's the weekly salary of an NFL minimum?
I don't know what the weekly is. 705 is the minimum salary this year per rookie player.
Right, as compared to the veteran minimum, which is he now would get if they elevate him. It's not that big a difference.
No.
So if it is that big a deal in the eyes of the coaching staff and Howie Roseman, I think the Eagles will do that. I don't think they're going to, because I think they're going to throw Gardner Johnson to the wolves in the deep end of the pool, and I think he's going to swim just fine. So when the game is over and done with,
probably right. But I'm here to hand ring, Jody. I like to ring some hands.
If need be, I'll ring hands with you, big guy. But in this case, I don't think it's necessary. All right, quickie timeout. When we come back, we'll have one of our favorite national guys join us. Chris Landry, former NFL coach and scout. Landry.
Now, Dave Zangaro today. You're jumping ahead.
About?
We're going to have Chris Landry tomorrow.
I'm trying to get the Friday in the worst way, McMullen. And you've had a tougher week than I have, but you and I are both trying to get to that weekend ASAP. Dave Zangaro from NBC Sports Philadelphia is going to join us next here on Birds 365.
Go passionately. Go fearlessly. Go confidently.
Go Birds!
Go confidently towards your goals with First Trust, Philly's hometown bank for nearly 90 years, and the official bank of the Philadelphia Eagles. We're focused on getting you over the goal line. So go with conviction, go with trust,
Go Birds!
and go forward with us by your side. First Trust Bank, the official bank of Philadelphia dreams. Oh, and go Birds.
Plan your day with confidence.
Definitely want to keep the umbrellas on hand.
And keep your family safe with Action News and AccuWeather.
Numerous tornadoes.
Well over 7 inches of rain.
Your go-to team when severe weather strikes.
The water is still rising right now.
Keeping you prepared wherever you watch. On TV, on 6abc.com, and on our streaming apps.
And that's when we go severe weather mode and on the air for you.
Action News and AccuWeather. The team you trust.
In Philadelphia, we celebrated the miracle with pride only 5 years ago. And then the following morning, IBEW Local 98 members went back to work, building this city, rescuing our communities from decay, and inspiring the young men and women of the region to take pride in who we are. Like the Cats, Local 98 members believe in hope.
To learn more about who we are, what we do, and career opportunities with Local 98, visit us, IBEW98.org.
At Stateside Vodka, every new customer gets the world's best rocks glass, free.
You're telling me that bottle is cut in half?
You could say that.
Go for the pulls and the pools. Go for the oohs and the ahs. Go for the bubbles and the bubbly. Go for the story and the stories. Go for the win. Go to Ocean Casino Resort. Book your trip at theoceanac.com.
'Appreciate you streaming in with us here on Birds 365. You got John McMullen and Jody McDonald hanging with you. Dave Zangaro scheduled to join us coming up in just a couple of minutes. One quickie before DZ jumps aboard, John. National football related. Did you see the rumor that Jason Peters is going down to Dallas to visit with the Cowboys?
Yeah.
I watched some Bears. Not that I tune in for the entire Bear game, but I always have the red zone on Sundays while jumping around to prepare for my national show on Sunday night. I saw him play some for the Bears last year. He can't even move anymore. He didn't give up a bunch of sacks because he's so good at technique and he's so large these days. He can still keep a defensive end from getting his paws on a quarterback, but he can't run block anymore. He's going to the Hall of Fame. He's a Philadelphia Eagle. Really, Cowboy? You think he can come in there and play left tackle for you? Is this something that scares you at all?
Jody, it happens. You know, they got to throw Tyler Smith into the deep end of the pool, and I think they overdrafted Tyler Smith. So, you know, he'll always have a first-round pedigree in Dallas.
Yep.
And I don't think he's a first-round player. So, yeah, you know, if you're calling up Jason Peters and you just drafted a left tackle in the first round, you probably overdrafted the left tackle in the first round.
Right. Who they the day on draft day they said we're looking at him as a left guard, even though he was a left tackle in college. They had him projected there, and now out of desperation because of the massive injury, they're going to have to reevaluate on the fly and move him back out to left tackle. As overmatched as he may be, much like Chauncey Gardner-Johnson being thrown into the deep end of the pool, that's what they're going to do. At least this kid is only a couple of months removed from playing left tackle. Chauncey Gardner's a couple of years removed from playing safety in Philadelphia. So we'll see how the transition goes. All right, we see him in the green room. That means he's ready to jump aboard with us. Here he comes, Dave Zangaro from NBC Sports, Philadelphia. You tired of hanging around with McMullen already? The season just getting
Of
underway.
course he is.
But you
Of
spent all
course he is.
summer with him. You must be tired of hanging around with him.
Oh, that goes without saying. I can answer that one for Dave.
No, it's we do have a long way to go here.
That's true.
We're at the beginning of this. It's funny though. You spend so much time around the other people on the beat. You get like, I'm not there yet, but like halfway through the season, you notice like all the question quirks and and I have them too. Like we all have our ways that we ask questions differently, or like I'm guilty of it as well. Like we'll become fixated on one element of the game, like we can't get over it. Those things are always fun.
Yeah, and you're right. Dave taking a shot at me. I'm
not a shot at everyone. That's not a shot at you.
Exactly. Feel free to take a shot at me. I'm not in with you guys, but they don't like the way I ask questions because I'm too wordy. I got killed yesterday here on the stream, but that's okay. I do it my way.
Yeah, we all have. Yeah, Dave's right. We all have our idiosyncrasies. So, and I want to talk to you about one of Howie's idiosyncrasies because I think this is phenomenal. And I don't think I asked you a practice. I asked Zach, and Zach's great with minutia. So are you. So I want to ask you this. I do not recall a conditional de-escalating pick in the history of the NFL. That was brilliant wording. That was brilliant wording from Howie Roseman. But it is what it is.
I've never seen it. Normally, a conditional pick can become a better pick, not a worse pick.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It feels like, I mean, this is just such a Jalen Reagor deserving language. Like it's already like they're already expecting him to fail to live up to whatever expectations they have for him. It's insane. Yeah. Why would they work? Obviously, like the wording and some of this stuff, and we don't know the conditions on the pick, but like a lot of times, obviously it looks better for the Eagles because they get to call it a higher pick than it might be. It's weird though. I can't remember ever seeing it.
Well, does it just come down to how he gave Adam Schefter? I believe Adam was first. How he gave Adam Schefter the news because if Kwesi Adofo-Mensah, he would have called it a 5, a conditional 5 that would turn into a 4.
Well, they still could have.
Yeah.
They announced the trade first, like officially.
And that's a good point. I have to look at their wording. I didn't look at their wording because they did. Yeah, it was I was obsessed by the wording.
So was I.
Because when I saw Adam break it, I said, "Oh my God, the Eagles got a potential 3rd round pick for Jalen Reagor," and at that point, I'm giving Howie Roseman all the credit in the world. Turns out
it's going the other way.
Yeah. And by the way, he still got something for Jalen Reagor, so I give him some plaudits, but he also drafted him. And even though
same thing with JJ, right? It's like you can obviously the picks are awful, and he deserves blame for the picks.
Yeah,
especially the Reagor pick. I give him more crap for the Reagor pick than the JJ pick.
I give him more crap for the JJ pick because, PK had a red flag. They weren't going to consider him until day 3. So that the injury part, I think fans get caught up in DK's a better player, but there were injury concerns. Whereas the Eagles just thought Justin Jefferson, and by the way, they're not the only team, thought he was just a slot receiver. The Vikings thought he was a slot receiver. They started him in the slot, had an injury, and then he had to play outside, and they're like, oh, look at this. So sometimes it's better to be lucky than good. But in the case of Jalen Reagor, the coaching staff kind of pointed. It's like that Spider-Man meme. You ever see them pointing at each other? Coaching staff pointing at Howie Roseman pointing at the coaching staff. Do you think Doug and those guys wanted Jalen Reagor, or do you think it was a Howie pick?
I think the coaching staff wanted the explosiveness. And I think the Eagles overvalued what they thought they saw in Jalen Reagor in that area. And it was a mistake. It was just, I don't care that they thought Jefferson was just a slot. He was a better player, and they reached on Reagor. And that's what made the pick so tough. And I think that's what made Reagor's life here so difficult is the Eagles went against conventional wisdom. And if you go against conventional, and sometimes there's a positive to that, but if you go against it and you fall on your face, it looks even worse. And the DK Metcalf thing is true. They didn't have him, you know, they weren't going to draft him because they were concerned about the medical. Obviously, that ended up not being an issue, and he's a great player. But I fault them less for that. Fault Howie less for that. Maybe not the organization because they screwed that up. But fault Howie less for that than the. I mean, that video of the Vikings draft room is going to be infamous here forever.
Yeah.
You know, and it was, and everyone in this city, it's a tough spot when it reminded me of the Marcus Smith pick in a way where it's like they drafted him. Everyone went, what are you doing? And it starts. And I'm not saying you have to draft who your fans want you to draft, but if you do that and the guy doesn't find immediate success, it's going to make it really tough.
You better get that kind right. All right, I'm going to ask you to go right here. I got an under-over for you, DZ. Last year, the Philadelphia Eagles had 7 different guys return kicks for them. They only had 2 guys return punts, one of which was Jalen Reagor, who returned 31 out of 33 last year. I set the over-under at 3.5. Individuals who will return punts for the Philadelphia Eagles this year, which means you got to go double the amount from last year to get to the over. You're going over or under 3.5 guys returning punts.
And just punts.
Just punts. There will be a follow-up question. You can probably guess what it's going to be.
Yeah, it's under.
Yeah.
I'm trying to count how many guys they even have.
Yeah, they don't have 3.5 guys.
Yeah.
Well, 3.5 guys don't exist, but I don't know who's going to return punts. I mean, you can elevate Britt and Kobe, but
I was just going through I spent my morning leafing through all my notes, finding every player who took a rep at punt and kick return. And they have some options, you know. I think Quez has a good shot to be the kick returner.
Oof, he wasn't good at it last year.
He wasn't good at it. But I think that's something he could be good at, theoretically. You know, he wasn't good at it. He was worse than Reagor last year as a kick returner. But I think that's something he could be good at. They have Gainwell. I wouldn't use him as a punt returner based on what I saw in practice. I didn't think he was very smooth. Covey,
he can catch it.
You have a roster spot. You only have 4 receivers. He's smooth. And just watching them field punts this summer, there was no one better at the catch point. He has that down, and he was explosive at Utah. So I would use a roster spot on him. I would find a way to make him the returner, I think.
Want to go to the other trade, C.J. Gardner-Johnson. From this perspective, I've been talking about this, Dave. I think everybody lauded that trade. I thought it was a good trade. The Eagles got younger, more athletic. However, we're talking about a guy who's played 80 snaps in total at safety in the NFL, coming essentially 11 days before the start of the regular season. The Eagles just went with a guy who's played 7 years in a similar scheme, and Jaquiski Tartt had a difficult time learning the terminology and all that stuff. And all of a sudden, C.J. Gardner-Johnson's going to show up and be ready to go week 1 in Detroit. Any concern we're going to see Kayvon Wallace out there as a starting safety in week 1?
It's a little concerning. Honestly, if he's not ready, I mean, we don't know yet because he just got here.
Yeah.
Next week will really tell us, and I'll tell the Eagles if he's ready to play in a game, ready to start a game. If he's not, I'd bring up Anthony Harris for a game.
But here's the problem with that, Dave. And we just got done talking about it. I think the Eagles should have kept Anthony Harris as an insurance policy for early in the season.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the problem is he's vested, so you have that week 1 guarantee.
I get it. You got to win a game.
Yeah, exactly. And they already paid him $1 million of the $2.5 million. So essentially, you got to pay him $1.5 million, and it guarantees you will win pretty much. Maybe I'm overstating it because Detroit should be somewhat improved. But
you're not buying the Hard Knocks?
Yeah, Jody more so than me is not buying the
No,
Hard Knocks.
I like them. I'm rooting for them. They got me. They hooked me in as a guy who root for the Lions on week that it has nothing to do with other teams that I root for. But they stink. They stunk. They
a
will
million
stink. They
and a
continue to
half,
stink.
Dave, insurance policy. Who cares?
I would
Keep
done
the
it.
guy.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you. So getting back to CJ though, I'm less concerned about the position switch than I am about the 11 days he has to get caught up. If they were,
same here. Yeah.
If they traded for him in the middle of the summer, I would have, that's fine.
Yeah.
But just learning a defense in 11 days is a lot. And then you add the position switch it's not nothing. Like it is, he's going to be playing a different position, but I think his skill set does translate to that position. I think he'll be an effective safety in what I'm assuming Gannon wants to use him for. But the limited time is the bigger concern.
Yeah, I'm with you. Week 8, I don't think there'll be a problem at all.
Mm-hmm.
But if there's a blown coverage in week 1 because you threw him in the deep end and he doesn't know the defense, I mean, I don't know. I would have kept Anthony Harrison.
And as much as the Eagles are high on Marcus Epps, and I am too, I think he's going to be a good player. This is a new role for him too. So now you're putting a lot on his shoulders individually and from a defense perspective, because I think a lot of this is like a lot of catching up. The new guy is going to fall on Marcus Epps as his running mate out there. And that's putting a lot on a young guy's shoulders.
All right, Dave. Yes, it's Mike Gill, the first guest we had on today. Want to get your take on it. Either he's not, and no, I got to state this way. Miles Sanders active for the game, goes out, tweaks his leg after the first carry. They're down to 2 running backs. How are they going to split those carries the rest of the game between Gainwell and Scott?
I think in a situation where Miles is injured, I think Boston becomes the feature back. And that's not to say they won't use Gainwell a lot. I just think if you have to rely on one player to take a bulk of the carries, it's probably Boston. We've seen him do that, right? We've seen him at times, too often, honestly, because Miles has been hurt quite a bit, but we've seen him shoulder that load. And I think he's better suited for, if he needs to take 15, 17 snaps carries in a game. I think Boston's better suited for that. I'd like to see more consistency from Gainwell, not just in his play, but in his usage. Last year, there were games where he was like getting way too much, and there were games he was inactive for a game. I'd like to see that, kind of steady out a little bit, because I think he can be an effective player. He didn't have a great camp, but I think there's something there. I just think he needs to be more consistent personally, and the offense has to be more consistent with finding his role.
Any concerns since we went down the running back route? Eagles are going to sign LaMichael Pirine on the practice squad. Kennedy Brooks back. We've talked about having that bigger presence in the backfield. I think it was Miami, 3rd and 1, 4th and 1 in the preseason game. Kenny Gainwell got nowhere. That was one of the surprises. He didn't have a good camp, Dave, but they were using him as the short yardage back pretty consistently. He doesn't seem like a short yardage back to me. Is that just we know Jalen Hurts is really our short yardage back type of thing?
I think it can be a combination of Hurts. They think Miles can do it. Now, obviously, the caveat with Miles is, is he going to be on the field? Boston is a pretty good short yardage back. He's
goal line touchdowns.
Goal line guy. I mean, he's a little bowling ball in there. You don't have to be Jordan Howard size running back to be good in short yardage. You can be, and Boston's like so stout. He's built. He's not bad in those short yardage spots. So I think he could eventually vulture some of those carries too.
All right. You guys were there for the entire training camp. And the way it was reported by both you two gentlemen and everyone else, when the Eagles were running their offense, it was Jalen Hurts to A.J. Brown and then to somebody else. And then Jalen Hurts to A.J. Brown, and then he'd work in someone else. And then Jalen Hurts to A.J. Brown again. That those guys were on.
Well, there was a lot of Dallas Goedert as well. So it was A.J. and Dallas.
Okay. But
and then by the end of camp, it was a lot of Devontae.
Yeah,
that
picks up a little bit.
That's where I'm getting at. Nice, easy, even spread over the top 3 week 1. Is it going to be the top 2? Will it be AJ and then everybody else? How do you think if they are going to? Because John continues to tell me that the Eagles want to lessen the choices of Jalen. They don't want him to go 4 deep in his reads. 1, 2, get the ball the hell out of there. Is it going to be the AJ Brown show in Detroit week 1?
Well, I do think it's going to change week to week. It's going to be a fantasy football player's nightmare because I think a lot of it's going to be matchup driven. And the thing I'm kind of most curious about is how much we'll see AJ Brown in the slot. I would use him there quite a bit. He's been really good in that position over his career. And I know that I might get the sense he likes playing outside, but if you're able to kind of move those guys around a little bit, he presents a real mismatch problem inside for smaller slot corners. And I like the idea of opening up Quez's speed on the outside at times too. So I know that's not answering your question, but that's something that's kind of been in the back of my mind.
I saw it. You asked Avonte that yesterday.
And
by the way, Avonte was great because we asked him a bunch of questions about the mirroring of safety and slot. He's like, they're 2 completely different positions. I don't know what he's talking about. And then you asked him about the size differences between different slot receivers, and Avonte said, it doesn't matter.
But it does matter.
It does matter. It does matter. It matters. So I'll go there with you from the Eagles' perspective. I'm starting to think we might see more of Zach Pascal than people think for this reason, Dave. The Eagles are a good team, and they're going to be leading in the fourth quarter, I think, more often than not. And if they're leading and they're playing 4-minute offense, I want Zach Pascal on the field. I don't want Quez Watkins on the field. So is that a little bit counterintuitive to want Zach Pascal on the field?
No, he really impressed me this camp.
Yeah, had a good camp.
He kind of got this reputation of like he's here because he's Nick's guy.
Well, I think he is here because he was Nick's guy.
Yeah,
but he played well.
Yeah, I mean he's more than that though. He's not a great player. He's not a Pro Bowl caliber player, but he's got a decent resume coming here. He's caught a lot of balls in the league, and I was impressed by just his athleticism. You think of him as being kind of a sticks mover. He was pretty athletic in training camp. I think he can also be a weapon in the red zone. He's got 15 touchdown catches in his career, which is pretty high of a percentage of his overall targets and catches. I mean, so he's been a weapon there for the Colts. I think he can probably do that here too. I think he's going to play a decent amount. I still think Quez is going to have more snaps than him, but I see your point. I think they will find ways to get him on the field because they can trust him.
All right. This is going to sound like nitpicking, probably because it is. If you listen to Birds 365, you know I was lobbying for James Bradbury to become an Eagle while he was still with the Giants. When the word was out that the Giants were probably going to cut him, I said, this guy'd be perfect. Howie, get advanced work, get it. And boom, he got it done. And John told me at one point during the preseason, he was thinking James Bradbury might be the most impressive Eagle, that he was having the best camp. We haven't seen him in a couple weeks. We didn't see him at all in the preseason in any of the games. Yeah, I'm an idiot. I know. I still care about the games. Is he going to be as good as we think he can be because he showed and D'd up A.J. Brown in practice? How good a season is James Bradbury looking at, DZ?
Yeah, I'm not concerned about James Bradbury. Not even a little bit. I know he missed some time with an injury, but it was a soft tissue injury, and they were being cautious with a veteran player who was playing at a really high level. So, it doesn't bother me that a veteran missed preseason games in practice. I think he'll be ready to go week 1. I think he's going to have a good season.
Good to hear.
And really, I mean, those 3 corners together, it's a really impressive trio. It is.
It is.
And we don't talk about Avante a lot. I know we talked about him here a little bit. I mean, his jump last year was massive jump, and he was out of position the year before. We knew that. So seeing him back there, and and having CJ Gardner-Johnson will help him too. A player like that who can sometimes, and Avante, I think, took a little exception to it yesterday because he's like, I can cover big guys too, and he can, but that'll take some of that off his plate at times, having a safety who can man up against some bigger players who, let's be honest, Avante's 5'9", and it's a tougher matchup problem for him.
Yeah, well, he struggled as an outside corner for that reason.
Yeah,
because he was 5'9". But you're right. Want to ship to the waiver wire because the Eagles did claim Ian Book. They wanted to claim Kellen Mond, but lost out to Cleveland. Boy, I don't see the upside there, Dave. To lose, I mean, not that Davion Taylor's anything great, but you got to create that roster spot because of the timing and 12 o'clock versus 4 o'clock. Maybe they get it back to the practice squad today. We'll see how that goes. Nick spoke in Miami and said, I'm fine with 2 quarterbacks. And in my career, I've had 2 more than 3 on the 53-man. Howie always seems to want that third guy. Is there value in Ian Book on this roster?
I haven't seen it from him necessarily. I know he had a good college career, obviously, and he doesn't strike me as a great developmental prospect.
No, I don't see the upside. That's fine. Like Kellen Mond, I would have been all right. He was terrible, but at least he's got the traits, and maybe if you unlock something.
Ian Book's 6 foot,
200
pounds. Like he's, and the curious thing is they kept Reed Sinnett. Sorry, it was pronounced Sinnett. That's going to take a while to get used to.
Yeah.
They kept him on the practice squad, so you have 4 quarterbacks, which is kind of strange. Maybe they just want Reed to know what it felt like to be Carson Strong during training camp.
Well, you got to restock the shelves at the quarterback factory.
Quarterback factory took a hit this summer.
A little bit, huh?
Yeah. The funny thing is, I think they wanted Reed to be their 3rd string quarterback on the roster, and he kind of played his way out of that.
Yeah.
Which is funny because one of the big reasons they liked him so much last year was because he tore up the preseason when he was a Dolphin. So after the first preseason game, when Nick Sirianni said he thought he was feeling some nerves and some pressure, I was like, what are you talking about? The dude came out here a year ago and made this team because he was so good in the preseason. It didn't make any sense to me, and it still doesn't.
Yeah. All right. We talked about wide receiver and potential returners, and right now they are a little light there. We're suggesting the chance that someone's going to get elevated for the practice squad to fill that role with Rager leaving. They probably will. But if they don't, 5th wide receiver, Grant Calcaterra, will they just split him out and give him a chance to play some wide receiver? Because you need a 5th wide receiver. You get 4 wide out lineups. They have 4 wide receivers at one point. Who's the 5th in case they have an injury?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it would be Calcaterra. I'd assume. I think they're going to have 5 on the roster.
Could be Britton Covey because you need the
Covey.
returner. So,
but if you need, and it's fun. I always kind of go through these contingency plans or what their contingency plans might be in my head. We've got to figure out the emergency quarterback this year because
now being booked, it's not as big as a concern.
No, I mean it is because you're not going to keep 3 active on game.
You're not going to activate.
No, but I meant it the next week, because people were saying, what if you got 2 and then you would and now you have 4 with
Who do you think is going to be the emergency in-game quarterback? Not Greg Ward anymore.
Yeah, I know. That's my thinking.
How about the 6'6", 330-pound Lane Johnson?
I don't think it'll be Lane.
Now, Tyree Jackson would be obvious if he was healthy, but
I think they might at that point go to like a wildcat and just have, maybe Gainwell. He's a lefty. Throw a curveball.
There you go.
Quarterback in high school, I believe. Kenny Gainwell. So.
It's weird to see. He's one of the few lefties on the team. You just watch guys tossing around the football. So not many lefty quarterbacks in the league. That'd be fun.
That's true. Throw a curveball.
Is it just Tua?
Yeah. There might be some back, but Tua's the only starter. We're used to having Greg Ward, Braxton Miller, even back in the day. We're used to having this ex-quarterback that could potentially be no more. Although if Tyree Jackson does make it back, they can go that route. But contingencies are always fun. Have you noticed anybody doing long snapping? Now we're getting deep in the weeds. Because I always, Matt Collins used to do it, every once in a while. I'll probably notice that more that we're in regular season mode. Every once in a while, though.
Yeah, I haven't noticed anyone working on it during the summer. I don't know who it would be. And everyone always asks, like, couldn't it just be the center? And it's like, no, it's completely different.
Yeah.
It's a different motion. For a long time, it was Brent Selleck, right? He was the emergency. And that was when Dorenbos got hurt and Selleck came in.
You had the crisis. And they were doing tryouts on the field.
No, they weren't. They weren't doing tryouts on the field. That was just Michael Kendricks starting to snap the ball on the sideline for no reason.
On his own, taking initiative. Good for Michael Kendricks.
Yeah.
That was Michael Kendricks being Michael Kendricks.
Dave, let me again, I've answered several of these questions where they're kind of hypotheticals, which I'm just trying to get your read on a particular situation. How many percentage of snaps that Nakobe Dean will play week 1? We know that White and certainly Edwards are going to get the majority of the snaps, but no Davion Taylor. I know he took some first-team snaps during preseason. See what that did for him. Nakobe, not really much at all. They looked like they wanted to bring him along slowly. How ready do you think he is for game 1? Did he just get a couple of fill-in snaps here or there? Is he going to be part of a package? How much do you think Dean plays week 1 against Detroit?
I think he'll be ready. I don't think he had a bad camp. I think he had a quiet camp. And I think the reason I have to pump the brakes on him is just because the guys in front of him were so good all summer. I don't think it was Nakobe's fault, but TJ Edwards might have been their best player in camp, and Kaiser White was very, very good. So I didn't think both of them would have been as good as they were in camp. So
same here.
And I'm still bullish on Nakobe Dean. I have to walk back. I think I said at one point he'd play the most snaps of any linebacker. Well, that's not going to happen. TJ is too good. Kaiser is too good. I think they'll find ways to get him involved. He's good at some things that are important. He's probably the best blitzer of those three. I think he'll find his way on the field. I don't think it's going to be, I don't think they're going to necessarily take those guys off the field for long periods of time to get Nakobe out there, but I think he'll play a little bit. And he'll play on teams.
Yeah, and not that it's any surprise, but Marcus Epps probably in trouble today because he admitted TJ Edwards is going to wear the green dots. Yeah. You got to keep that secret. Nobody knew that.
Oh, he gave up a competitive advantage?
You mean that middle
Shame on him.
Make the calls, John?
Yeah, shocking. Yeah. Shocking, but you can't give that away. At D Zangaro NBCS, follow him on Twitter, NBCsports.com. Read him there. Last one for me, Dave. If there was one guy that you thought should have made this team, not even who you picked. We picked the exact same 53, by the way, according to Bo. We had the exact same. So you got 50 right, in theory. If there was one guy you thought, Dave Zangaro, not who you thought the Eagles were going to keep, that should have made this team, was there anybody in that sort of category?
There are two that come to mind. So I'll just hedge and give you both. Deion Kane and Jack Anderson did enough to make the team. They both deserve to make the team. I'm more surprised that Jack Anderson didn't than I am Deion Kane.
Same here. I blame Stout for losing this thing. We were one behind Jimmy Kempsey.
Yeah,
both had Jack
and I get why they kept Josh Sills in hindsight, because he's more of a tackle guard, whereas Anderson's more of a guard center. And you look at what they have, and you don't need a third string center. And you have other guards, so I get it. But Jack Anderson can play. I would have been surprised if he wasn't claimed. So I thought he did enough to make this team and deserved to make the team. But he's on another squad, so good for him.
Well, then, will your guy, Deion Kane, who deserved to make the team, will he return a punt this year? Did he return one punt in practice all summer long?
No.
Yeah, he's not a punt returner. That was my problem with Deion Kane. Just if you're going to be a fifth or a sixth, and they weren't going to keep six, you got to play special teams. You got to do something. So you got to be a returner.
I will say he's good. He's a good guy to have on the practice squad, because if you have an injury, he can play receiver.
Yeah.
You know? Like he's the most of the three receivers I have on the practice squad. Like, he's
by far.
The most ready to step in and take offensive snaps if you ever need him.
Yeah, by far the best actual receiver. Yeah.
All right, Dave, if we don't get you back on before the first game, how many touchdowns did the Eagles win by?
Touchdown and a half.
Oh,
okay,
that's
double digits. You see
solid win. It's a solid win. So that means CJ's not blowing coverage.
No.
Well, he could blow coverage.
Oh, throw him in the deep end of the pool. He'll swim just fine. Not a problem.
Well, I'm saying that I don't think the line's going to be very good. So.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Dave, good stuff. Always a pleasure, my friend. Oh, I got one last question for you. If they put you in the middle of the set and you got Tyrann Hatcher to your left and Barrett to your right, it's going to be peaks and valleys anyway you slice it. You're going to be the little guy in the middle. Do you lean more toward Tyrann, or do you lean more toward Barrett? Because Taryn's taller and she's not supposed to be tall. Barrett, former NFL lineman, if you're smaller than him. Oh, that's okay. Hey, I'm not Barrett. But which way do you lean? Do you go one way or the other, or do you stay right in the middle?
I take a step forward.
There you go. Smart. Lean. Get in closer to that camera. Zingaro, you're the best. Thank you much for coming on board today. We'll get you again soon.
All right. Take care, guys.
Thanks,
That's Dave Zingaro from NBC Sports Philadelphia. All right, Johnny Mac coming back. You know what we got to do? We will put a bow on this show.
Go passionately. Go fearlessly. Go confidently.
Go Birds!
Go confidently towards your goals with First Trust, Philly's hometown bank for nearly 90 years, and the official bank of the Philadelphia Eagles. We're focused on getting you over the goal line. So go with conviction. Go with trust.
Go Birds!
And go forward with us by your side. First Trust Bank, the official bank of Philadelphia dreams. Oh, and go Birds.
Jim Gardner is an icon.
A Philadelphia treasure.
He's a mentor, a pace setter.
Jim is my North Star.
He's trusted, revered.
Appreciated.
He is Action News.
He's compassionate.
Honest.
And fair.
He is extremely dedicated,
Motivated. And always seeking the truth.
He's also funny.
We are a team of many.
Jim Gardner is our leader. And we're lucky to have him.
At Stateside Vodka, every new customer gets the world's best rocks glass, free.
You're telling me that bottle is cut in half?
You could say that.
Go for the poles and the pools. Go for the oohs and the ahs. Go for the bubbles and the bubbly. Go for the story and the stories. Go for the win. Go to Ocean Casino Resort. Book your trip at theoceanac.com.
Appreciate you tuning in, streaming in, joining us here on Birds 365. Special thanks to all of you who comment on the stream. You always either make me laugh or give me a point of view. Every once in a while, somebody asks a question, boom, I'll turn around and ask it. So thanks for those who jump on and comment every single day. Didn't see Dominique today, who was the main Jaquaski Tart fan. And when Jaquaski got his walking papers, jumped on the defend Jalen Reagor bandwagon the last couple of days. Somehow not present in the comments on today's show, but I get it. I get it. Your boys are gone. Sorry if Johnny and I pointed out that they both should be gone, but that's just us. All right, J-Mac, what do you got going today? How you got to get over there? Who's speaking?
Yeah, I got to get over there. Nick Sirianni at 11:15. Eagles practice at about 12, and then they're off for the weekend. Collectively bargained, by the way. So there's no option. They have to let the players off for the weekend. In this sort of pseudo bye-week atmosphere before week one.
They should enjoy their weekend. You should enjoy your weekend. Check out Johnny's missives on JAKIBsports.com. He'll have something after Sirianni talks today, so you definitely want to catch that. And we'll be back here tomorrow. Oh, yeah, Chris Landry's going to be here. So will Joe Santaliquido. I tried to jump ahead to Friday. We will definitely get a Friday Birds 365 in tomorrow in 2 and 2.
You've been listening to Birds 365, the destination for the passionate Eagles football fan who bleeds green. If it's Eagles football, we're talking about it. Debate, inside the locker room, and guests that are some of the greatest football minds from around the region. We hope you enjoyed the show. We know we had a blast. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hook up with us on social media at JAKIB Sports. See you next time on Birds 365.